I am Audie Murphy, the sister of Audie L. Murphy, the most decorated hero of World War II.
He survived Nazis, Hollywood, and heartbreak. But what finally killed him? It wasn't an accident, and the truth is horrifying. Audie Murphy was America's war hero, a movie star, and a living legend. But behind the medals and fame was a man haunted by demons. And then, he died. Just 45 years old. A tragic plane crash, they said. But now, decades later, the truth is finally coming to light. And it's not just unsettling, it's terrifying. Because this wasn't just an accident. It was a warning. He didn't grow up on the right side of town. He grew up in a shack, a real one. Dirt floors, no electricity, no future. Audie Murphy was just a scrawny kid from Kingston, Texas, one of 12 children born to a family so poor they couldn't afford to eat some nights. His dad walked out and never came back. His mom dead before he turned 17. So there he was, a half-starved, orphaned teenager with no money, no formal education, and no backup plan. He had to quit school after the 5th grade just to feed his siblings. While other kids were playing ball, Audie was working in fields, killing rabbits for food, and praying tomorrow wouldn't be worse than today. This wasn't character building. This was survival. But here's the part that doesn't make sense. This broken, starving kid would go on to become the most decorated combat soldier in American history. How? What happened between the barefoot boy picking cotton and the man who single-handedly gunned down 100 German troops with a burning tank behind him? There's something the history books don't tell you. Because Murphy didn't just get tough, he got dangerous. So now that you've seen what he survived, and how he was already making enemies, what do you think happened in the end? Accident or something darker? Let me know below. They told him, "You're too small." The Navy said no. The Marines laughed him out the door. At just 5'5" and barely 110 pounds, Audie Murphy looked like he couldn't win a bar fight, let alone a war. But what they didn't see was the rage, the grief, the quiet, cold fury of a boy who had nothing left to lose. He forged documents to get into the army. He lied about his age. He didn't care if he died, and that's exactly why he survived. And then, he became a problem for the enemy. In Italy, he charged machine gun nests alone. In France, he crawled through barbed wire to take out tanks. But the moment that turned him into a living legend? January 26, 1945. Holtzwihr, France. Audie's unit was being torn apart. The Germans were coming in waves. Everyone around him was retreating, dying. And Audie? He climbed onto a burning tank destroyer. That's not Hollywood. That actually happened. He took the .50 caliber machine gun, covered in flames and smoke, and held off over 100 German soldiers for more than an hour, by himself. No backup, no fear, and no mercy. He even called in artillery strikes from the radio while his leg was bleeding out. That act earned him the Medal of Honor, the highest military award in the United States. He wasn't even 20 years old. Let that sink in. America's deadliest soldier was a half-starved, PTSD-riddled orphan who couldn't even vote yet. And if you think that's wild, just wait until you find out what happened to him after the war. Because Hollywood made him a star, but someone else wanted him dead. And decades later, they finally got him. You ever wonder what happens to a soldier after the war ends? They give you medals, a parade, a pat on the back, but they don't tell you how to sleep through the night. Audie Murphy came home a national hero, but inside, he was falling apart. The guy who once took down an entire German company on his own? Now he was afraid of his own mind. He had what they called battle fatigue. But let's call it what it really was: severe PTSD, the kind that made him sweat through his sheets, scream in his sleep, and dive for cover when a car backfired. He couldn't stand crowds, couldn't trust anyone, He slept with a pistol under his pillow every night. And still, he didn't crack. Because here's the wild part. Murphy didn't hide it. In an era when most men were told to man up or drink the pain away, he went public. He testified before Congress. He begged the government to do something for veterans struggling with the same invisible war. He didn't care what it cost his image. He didn't care if Hollywood dropped him. He just didn't want more soldiers ending up like him. But bravery like that? It doesn't make you popular with everyone. And what happened next proves just how far some people will go to silence someone who tells the truth. When Hollywood came calling, Murphy didn't go chasing stardom. He needed money, fast. His fame got him in the door, but his demons followed him through it. He ended up starring in over 40 films, most of them westerns, where the good guy with a gun saves the day. Irony? He was the guy with the gun, and he didn't feel like a hero. But in 1955, something truly insane happened. Universal made To Hell and Back, a war movie based on Murphy's real-life combat. And guess who played the lead? Audie Murphy played himself. Can you imagine reliving the worst days of your life in front of cameras with fake explosions and blood while America eats popcorn and cheers? That wasn't a movie. That was trauma. And it worked. The movie broke box office records. Audie became a household name. But behind that fame, he was unraveling. He hated being called a star. He hated being interviewed. He hated that people wanted autographs but didn't understand the man behind the uniform. He tried his hand at songwriting, TV appearances, even producing. But none of it gave him peace. And as his celebrity grew, so did the rumors. About who he was meeting with, what he knew, and the enemies he might be making. Because some secrets in Hollywood aren't just about movie deals. And Murphy was starting to dig into things that, according to certain people, were better left buried. Think you know what really happened to Audie Murphy? Keep watching and tell me at the end. At first glance, Audie Murphy looked like the perfect American icon. Decorated war hero turned movie star, clean-cut, humble, patriotic. But behind the scenes, he was making enemies, quietly, but dangerously. Murphy wasn't just acting in westerns and signing autographs. He was getting involved in meetings, private meetings, with people who weren't producers, agents, or journalists. They were officials, military, intelligence, people who never smiled for cameras. And when those meetings started happening, so did the whispers. He was spotted in places he shouldn't be. He was asking questions people didn't like. And in Cold War-era America, asking the wrong questions could be fatal. Murphy was outspoken. Too outspoken. He talked about classified operations, the way soldiers were used and discarded. He hinted that certain things the government was doing weren't just unethical. They were illegal. And then, just like that, he started getting watched. Neighbors reported strange cars parked outside his home, phones clicking, letters going missing. He told friends he felt like he was being followed. Was it paranoia? Or did Audie Murphy know something that made him a target? That's when the pattern began. Deals fell through. Funding for new projects dried up. Studio execs stopped returning his calls. Someone was pulling strings. Silently, from the shadows. And then came the trip that would end everything. May 28, 1971. Audie Murphy boards a private twin-engine plane headed toward Virginia. Weather's rough. The pilot is underqualified. And the flight plan? Sloppy, erratic. It's like the entire trip was built to fail. And it did. The plane crashed into Brush Mountain, killing everyone on board. The official report said pilot error and bad weather. Case closed. But hold on, something didn't add up. Why was the plane flying so low, so close to mountainous terrain, with zero visibility? Why were pieces of the wreckage missing when rescuers arrived? Why were key witnesses told not to speak? People started asking questions, not conspiracy theorists, not bloggers, real people, Murphy's friends, fellow veterans, his own family. And what they uncovered was chilling. The pilot had logged hours that didn't match the plane's flight time. The control system wiring looked tampered with. And the icing on this tragic cake? Multiple former intelligence officers, years later, admitted that Murphy had been on a watch list. One man, a retired military contractor, said flat out, "Audie stumbled onto something he shouldn't have, something deep, something dangerous. They couldn't let it get out." Let that sink in. America's most decorated soldier, a man who risked everything for his country, might have been taken out by the very people he fought to protect. And if that doesn't make your blood run cold, just wait until you hear what investigators recently discovered. Because the truth that finally came out, it's not just dark, it's terrifying. A team of modern investigators recently reopened the case, armed with advanced forensics and declassified government files. What they found? Wiring had been cut. Control systems tampered with. The plane was sabotaged. And then came the whistleblower, an ex-intelligence agent who broke silence after 50 years. He claimed Murphy had uncovered something massive: covert ops, hidden government projects, stuff people have been killed over. Murphy wasn't a victim of weather. He was eliminated. Audie Murphy gave everything for his country, his youth, his sanity, his peace. He fought enemies abroad, then battled trauma at home. And in the end, it wasn't war that killed him. It was silence. It was secrets. Someone wanted him gone, and they got what they wanted. The legend of Audie Murphy is bigger than medals and movies. He was a hero, yes, but also a man caught in a web of power, politics, and betrayal. And now, with the evidence uncovered, we're forced to ask, if America could do this to its greatest soldier, who's really safe?